Pro live chat show. My name is Jack McLean. I'm your host, and tonight my guest is Chris Perkin. He is the Director of West Coast Health and High Performance, and he's part-time at the West Coast Eagles, where he started in 2004. I'm just closing the YouTube there, or doubling up for a second. Chris has over 20 years of experience at the highest clinical level, offering expert opinions to various state and national athletes. West Coast Health is proud to be partner of the West Coast Health Eagles Football Club, providing them with physiotherapist and injury management services for the AFL and Waffle team. Before we start tonight's episode, our mission here at Prepare Like a Pro is to empower aspiring athletes and staff with practical knowledge of some of the industry's most inspiring individuals and to strengthen the AFL community. If you like the show, please show your support by following us on Instagram and subscribing to the podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Welcome, Chris. Thanks for joining us again, mate.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, thanks for having me on, mate. Look forward to having a chat.
Yeah, we've got a bit more time on our hands now to really dive into your journey. You mentioned 2004 West Coast Eagles, so you've had a good stint there, which no doubt will spend some time of your career over the Eagles. But let's go back to the very beginning. At what age did you discover you had a passion for physiotherapy?
Look, yeah, it's always a funny one. I think people find it difficult to know when the exact moment was, but being into sport, I suppose this is probably a familiar story with people going to physio, was injured myself playing footy, country footy in Cambalda, which is a place near Calgary. You guys over the East Coast wouldn't have a clue where that is, but little mining town, and everyone plays footy and cricket and basketball. So sprained the ankle. My old lady, my mum, took me to the local physio clinic, or nursing post it's called, because there's not much going on there in a small country town. And it was a good experience. Basically, couldn't move with this ankle and got myself back playing within a week or two, which obviously is, we know that happens. And that was probably enough of a good experience for me to get involved at about year 10 or 11, I think, sort of as a 15, 16-year-old. So I guess from there on in, took me on that sporting concept pathway, and obviously physio is not just about sport, we know that, but I was lucky enough to delve into that when I graduated. But mate, my physio career was almost over on a fourth year country prac where I left a wax bath on in the hospital I was at, and come back to a flaming room in the fire department there. So I was destined not to work in a hospital.
That's classic.
Yeah.
So everything turned out all right.
Yeah, the fourth year student lost some marks for leaving the wax bath on. So yeah, that sent me into sports physio instead of the hospital setting.
You made the right choice there, I reckon.
Exactly.
And with the physio side of things, you mentioned a week turnaround. What did your rehab look like at the age of 15 at that point? What was the ankle injury, and how did the
You're testing me out now 30 years ago. Look, from memory, it was doing some wobble boards, some balancing sort of stuff, getting some strapping on, and actually just walking out feeling, that actually feels better. And I think that's what, as physios, that's what our aim is, to sort of have someone walking out the room and being a bit more empowered and feeling like we've had an effect. And so walking out of somewhere and thinking someone's helped me there, geez, that's great. This is not a bad little feeling. So I guess from there, it's help. That's what we do in our profession, is helping out people. So it was a nice feeling, and rewarding to get back to what you love doing. And that's our aim in sports and medicine and health, is getting people back to what they love doing, and that's exercise.
Awesome. I love that. That's great. And it's an empowering message as well as practitioners to, like you said, if you can help the athlete walk in, and as they walk out, they're feeling better, more confident, and feeling better physically, you've done a pretty good job.
Absolutely. Just like to know you've actually had an effect, something changes. Often, injuries don't change in a hurry, but to walk out of every session, I think, with someone and something's actually helped, or your mind's changed, or you've been positively influenced by something, is good.
Yep. And what about those that have influenced you in your early part of your career? Did you have mentors early on, or did you sort of forge your own way? Talk us through
Yeah, I was lucky enough to jump into a physio practice early days that linked in with a couple of sports teams. So I think my first company was Western Sport Care, it's called. So an old fellow, Noel McRoberts, he was sort of more towards the end of his career, and he ran the Australian hockey team and the Wildcats basketball, who sadly didn't make the finals this year. But I think that was a great experience. So he took me on knowing I'd played a lot of sport along the pathway before heading to physio, as a footballer, basketballer. And so that all helps, I think, as you're developing into your profession, to be active in the things you want to go into. So yeah, that was a nice start. So cut my teeth on some elite sports people in my very early days. And I still remember, you may not know the guy's name, the Alabama Slammer he was James Crawford. He was one of the centers for the Wildcats, and sort of my first ankle strapping was James Crawford telling me, "Hey man, you know what you're doing, man, with that ankle." In his Alabama background, and he got this 21-year-old strapping his ankle. So you learn the
quick.
pretty quickly when athletes give you a bit of shit, and you just need you grow from that. I mean, you can take it on board, and it's it's great. So that was a really nice start, and working with the Wildcats and the Australian hockey, and doing some trips with some more senior physios in my early days, and traveling to Pakistan with the Australian hockey. That was an amazing experience back in '99, so moons ago. People have only just started going back to Pakistan, so I was lucky enough to be there with the Aussie hockey team and seeing the passion of sports around the world. I mean, people playing cricket in every park you walk around in Pakistan. It's unbelievable. But the hockey stadium, incredible stuff. So Noel was sort of instrumental in getting me involved in that stuff. And I suppose, winning a premiership with the Wildcats in '99 was pretty good memory. I think so that was a good influence. And then did my sports physio degree. Funnily enough, Peter O'Sullivan was our lecturer that year, transitioning out of transitioning into lecturing, and he was then my next sort of employee, I guess, and employer. So Peter O'Sullivan, the back guru from Perth, with his all his amazing research that he'd done, he sort of got me on board to work with him for a few years, and then we became business partners. So that was an amazing sort of experience with Pete, who taught me his trade in spinal pain, chronic pain, and to bring that into the sporting field was really special, and a good part of how I operate. So that was very lucky to be business partners with him for 10 years along the way, and a women's health physio in Judith Thompson. And so there's some key physios that sort of influenced me along the way. And I guess working with athletes like you have, mate, and all the people who are listening with us, I mean, probably two athletes that stick in my mind are probably Steve Hooker. So I worked with him through his time. He's a Melbourne man. So you know him well. His time over here when he was with the waste program, and he was a genius at just getting everything out of his body. Wanted to perform, pushed everyone around him to get better. So I almost learnt to actually go and hunt things down onto how to actually improve on performance, and all the little things that make a difference, the 1%ers that make a difference in an athlete's body and how they feel. And we come up with some fun things, and he'd search around for different people's opinions, and we'd talk it through. And so, I was spending some nights in the front of the TV, sort of putting needles in him, or sort of getting, release work done was, part of our routine as well. So, and my kids to have their have his gold medal around his neck when he was over, it was pretty great. So you sort of get to know your athletes really well when you work closely with them, and that's a pretty lucky thing to be doing with what we do in our profession. And then probably another player that I just rate highly is Matty Priddis, Brownlow medalist for West Coast Eagles. He comes through the rookie draft as a mature age, and he just got the best out of him. Mr. Football, we called him, and his influence on me, just making people do all the things you need to do to get better. There's no spare time when you're at a footy club. Don't just wait around. Get on the roller, do some extra trigger work. ask people questions of how you can improve, so he was a great advocate for doing everything you can do to get the best out of your body. And so those sort of names really helped me a lot along the pathway, and give me an approach that I sort of do myself. And everyone has their own approach, but it blends in from all the influences you've had. And I guess all the physios along the pathway that we work with at the club, being the Eagles for 20 years, the banter you have with the physio group. So Paul Tucker's been with me forever there. Mark Finnecane and Steve Allen, who's there now, they're great guys who influence you in the, and of course the sports science crew we work with, that whole team environment of working with, sports science and coaches and everyone who's got the same aim to get your athlete at that best level and keep them on the track. And unfortunately, at the Eagles at the moment, we're not quite doing the best job.
Footy gods aren't being very nice.
Footy gods haven't been nice, and we we've been cursed a little bit. We're doing everything we can though, and as we always will in our profession.
100%. No, I like that mindset, mate, of it's not just practitioners in your field, but obviously you had mentors that you looked up to and you learned from, but also learning off the best athletes that you've worked with, practitioners in other fields, like you mentioned, coaches, sports scientists, strength and conditioning coaches. It's a good perspective to have, I think, as all practitioners in the field of what we do, athletic preparation. Is that something that has come naturally to you, that open mindset, like you mentioned with Steve Hooker?
Yeah.
You love the fact that he would probe you and challenge you on how can we think more laterally and do things differently.
I think everyone has a different approach and everyone's had more experiences. Like that's what we do as professionals. We look at the people who've done the research, we try it out, we see if it works from our perspective. Athletes respond to different things. Every athlete has a different mindset, don't they? So you sort of need to get in there inside their head, and just being an easy person to talk to is really important to get the best out of each athlete, because unless you get those details down pat, you might be pushing shit uphill in trying to get what you want out of them if they've got a mental barrier of some sort you don't quite get. So, and we're not going to be best suited to every person we talk with. So you might find that if you're open enough to different ideas, you're not getting someone better, then work with people who are, have different skill sets. So that's my motto, is just, deal with people who are the best at what they do and then chase that down. We've always aspire to say, these people are great at what they're doing, but get as much information as you can as everyone around you, really, to get the right aim.
And for the physiotherapists tuning in that want to work in elite sport, they might be working, in a semi-professional sport at the moment or community level, and they're striving to get their foot in the door. You mentioned Pedo Sutherland, the connection there was through doing your masters. What about with Noel? How did you get that connection early on in your career? Was it calling? Was it through your own networks? Talk us through.
Yeah, I think that was through a network of working alongside as sports trainers. So when you go through your degree, I think for me as an employer, I think looking at getting involved in work experience, ring people up. If there's an area you want to go to, ring people up, be annoying to a point where, you can be helpfully annoying, but because otherwise we'll get blocked pretty quickly. But if you want to chase something, chase it. It's not going to come to you. So you got to chase it. And, I think like physios now, jumping in and asking surgeons to sit in with the patient that's going for surgery with them. That's a great idea, to sort of just get connected with the surgeon, the patient. Ring the personal trainers that I deal with all the time, dealing with. I'm going off track here a bit, but, I guess from getting your first bite of the cherry as when you're going into your profession, it's actually putting it out there, doing unpaid work that's going to get you the opportunity to go where you need to, and just show a passion for what you're doing. That's what I'm looking for all the time, is people who you tell they love what they're doing and they want to aspire to be better. So having people around you that want to keep continually better, that ask you questions, are really important. So my initial job was based on a contact and an opportunity from a question, and my involvement in basketball. I love basketball playing, and I'd also strapped footy guys as a player playing for North Beach and Subiaco footy over here. And I actually remember now working with one of the physios helping strap guys before I'd go out and play myself. So You know,
It all helps.
Yeah, it all helps. I mean, for many years I was, running out, warming up my footy team, my local footy team, going and cracking someone's thoracic spine just before the siren goes and on the field, and putting a finger back, running down to full back and putting a finger back in if that happens. It all helped you just get, the experience of what you wanted to go into. Good fun.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that, with that, take us through your mindset. Did you know that you were going to be a physio at that point, like in sport, and you were, doing deliberate practice, or was it just you had a skill set and you just wanted to help people?
Oh no, that was once I was in physio study, going through uni when you're still, playing footy and trying to juggle everything with life and work and do your sport and have relationships and get out with your mates and all those sort of things. They're fun times. So yeah, that sort of is just trying to put in as much as you can to where I think you're going, experience them. And, from a physio perspective, we love to see dislocated shoulders and fingers and things like that. It's not something most people love, but unfortunately they're the experiences you want to see as a sports physio in your early stages so you can experience it. I popped my young bloke's 15-year-old's kneecap back in when he was working at Hungry Jack's a couple of weeks ago. And so that's just from years of experience. Instead of worrying about a hospital and an ambulance, he's given me a call. So I've ducked into his work and
he finished off the shift.
Popped his patella back in.
So, well played.
Yeah, I think it's just, doing every opportunity, using what you can to, do what you do.
Yep. Man, love that. And you mentioned, and early on that moment with James Crawford, it definitely could have been a sink or swing moment for a young practitioner. And I have been in it reminds me of moments where you do hear that. You can hear some athletes keep it to themselves, they'd be nice, and then other athletes will definitely let the trainer or the physiotherapist know if they're not liking the strapping job. And you said it's a good growth experience to get better for physios, trainers, whoever it might be that are experiencing those moments. How do you like to develop your craft? You've talked about making the most of every opportunity you can get, whether it be strapping a mate, but do you prefer to, whether you're trying to find a new methodology to help, like someone like Steve Hooker, is that calling colleagues and picking their brain? Is it, you mentioned research? What's your favorite way to develop your own craft?
So develop your own knowledge. I think, one of the things is talking and being open about cases. So discussing cases. I mean, in the AFL, the NRL, whatever sport it is at the elite level, we're always trying to get our players, our athletes back as quickly as we can and safely as we can. So ringing people within your network across fields. I was lucky enough to do a little bit of lecturing at Aspetar, and, you've got some genius people over there, and, you can join on your contacts, even in the research worlds over there. They're a real research hospital. You can ring up and say, look, what's the latest on this? Have you guys got anyone back earlier on this protocol? So I think everyone's happy to share. You just got to be careful with specific names so it doesn't get out that you're, but yeah, I think that's one big thing is actually, talking to colleagues and actually going through case studies. It's a learning experience for everyone. So talking to sports physicians, talking to anyone that's had an experience with a particular case you're looking for, and, social media is huge now. It's so much better. I mean, when I was studying undergrad, you're going to the library and looking up journal articles still out of books. So that's showing my grey age. But it's so much easier now, and us oldies are a little bit less experienced on the social media, but I still have a crack at trying to actually follow as many people as I can on that. I guess Mick Hughes is a great one over there who does so much stuff on ACL stuff himself. He's made a little bit of a business out of just having a great podcast that he does and his ACL stuff. So it's the same with lots of different areas. People become experts in those areas, and nice to follow them and what they're doing. You're still getting your journal articles sort of flicked through at, where we are at the West Coast. We share a lot of updated articles across sports science and medicine. But I reckon the best one is actually asking questions, not feeling dumb enough to put yourself out there and say, look, really need some help on this case. What do you think we can do? You know, and I also think with patients, it's asking them, you know, what do you feel's helped you? Like what's not working, and being open, going, look, I feel like we're not going anywhere now. What do you reckon we need to do? And having an open conversation, you know, about that, you know, and saying, I've got this other guy I want you to see. I want to come in and catch up with him. At my clinic at West Coast Health High Performance, well, I'll often bring a case that's challenging in and get the whole group of, you know, 8, 10 of us physios and group of people in there and challenge everyone around and go, here he is. This is what my study, this is what I'm doing. What do you think? You know, you guys test him out, ask him questions, you know, do some assessment on him. Let's have a big open group discussion on this, you know, chronic hamstring tendinopathy that's not getting better. Why is it not getting better? Just challenge yourselves as to what else we can do. So I think, you know, people need to be mindful that they don't know everything. And if you're not getting someone better, challenge yourself to get more help. Don't be afraid to get help.
And this might be a tricky question, but in your experience with doing that, specifically with physios, how much is it that the diagnosis was slightly off, and how much is it that the relationship with the athlete was slightly off, therefore you didn't quite get enough information?
Yeah, look, I guess you know, you get very closely linked with patients, so they get very sort of protective. Physios become protective sometimes of their patient, and the patients develop a good relationship with them. So it's more, I think patients appreciate that when someone's referred you across to someone else, if you can't get the process, not necessarily to ongoing treatment, but for advice, and say, look, this guy does this. You know, he's a specialist in the pelvis or the groin, or sees a lot of these. How about you see him, and then he'll give him some advice to come back. I think that's really important. But you're right. I think they're the ones that work better when the physio is mindful to actually push them on, as opposed to
holding on to them.
I'm seeing second or third opinions because people haven't got better and they've become fed up. So if someone's not getting better with their injury, then you need to go forward and change what you're doing or get a different approach. And it's not always, you don't look at it as a negative on yourself. You look at it as trying, maybe how can I learn from this? You know? That's more important. So yeah, but I think the people maintain the relationship with the patient if they're actually happy to refer on. It's a better thing to someone who's like maybe a specialist or a more expertise in their area. Well, it's such a great, I mean, you ultimately, you're putting the athlete first, aren't you? The client first before yourself. Yeah, I mean, that's our job. To get the best out of the human being in front of us, whether it's an athlete or a patient with chronic back pain or whatever it is. If you can't get them better, it's not a nice environment to work in. Someone who's continually coming back in pain or we're having the same problem. So you either need to toughen up and figure out that, you know, change your approach or get some help. And getting some help isn't a negative. It's a massively positive learning environment.
You've worked in a range of elite sporting environments. What are some highlights that you look back fondly of, Chris?
Yeah, look, with that Pakistan trip, going to Pakistan and getting delivered this massive 1 by 1 meter ice block I had to chisel out. And watching how sport was done in a passionate country like that. But you know, my footy, having done a lot of physio at my local footy club at my mighty North Beach Tigers, I've just been very lucky enough to win a bunch of premierships with those boys, and the celebration, and always being the guy that asks, okay, what about this? What about that? You know, injury wise, but you know, the celebrations and the fun that you have with community sport and your physio link with that. But as a player, that's just, I can't say enough about that, the links with community sport and your commitments to those, and both as a physio / player and heavily involved in the club. But yeah, I mean, watching Steve Hooker get his gold medal and being able to experience that with him, working with the Eagles team. I mean, I was lucky enough to only be there for sort of 2 or 3 years before they'd won a premiership. So 2006, 2018, you know, a couple of great premierships there. But it's not just that, it's the relationships you build along the pathway with the clubs you're with and the people you actually share that joy with, as opposed to the moment itself. So, you know, but they're certainly highlights from a sports physio point of view. I was very lucky enough to be involved with. But you can have just as much fun winning a C grade, you know, helping out with the under 40s hockey team. You know, I mean, it's just how involved you get with whatever club and link you've got, I think, is the fun stuff of what we do, and being, you know, passionate about it, being, you know, get engaged with it. I think it's the most important thing, being engaged in what you do well. So, yeah, I think there's a couple of lucky moments I've had there over time, and, you know, that's they'll always stick in my memory.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, thanks for sharing. It's some great highlights, and ones that are from a personal point of view, and all the way to the top, to gold medals and premierships, which is it's a great experience.
And professionally, I probably should say that, you know, getting that specialisation under my belt was a pretty important thing. We were pushed by, you know, Peter O'Sullivan. He's a genius physio and a research clinician. And it was a pretty big highlight in my career to be able to go and do that. And that's sort of something that a lot of physios are aspiring to do now, and going through the training program and become that sort of highest level of professionalism that you can get clinically. So that was probably professionally the great moment to get that under the belt and then keep going. I'm not a researcher, but I love to be clinically working on people and continue to advance in what we do.
Yep. And what about on the flip side? What have been some challenges that you faced, and what have you learned from it?
Yeah, look, I mean, challenges are always a difficult one. I mean, challenges come in patients that you're not getting better, patients you've actually injured, and learning from that, and then trying to you know, avoid doing that again. You know, we get so connected with patients that we sort of want to make sure we're doing the right thing by all of them, and some of them go backwards. So, you know, learning from that and not doing that again, and then getting, you know, on the right track early. I mean, the biggest challenge in my life and my career, physio-wise, was probably losing my wife. I mean, we had an awful time in 2009, and we were having a third baby, and the baby got infected. We delivered a stillborn baby at term, and so the baby died, and my wife went into a coma and died like 3 days later. So no one likes to hear that stuff. And
no,
you know,
so sorry to hear.
Yeah, and that's and that's the sort of thing no one wants to hear, but that's a challenge, and that's a life story. So for me to juggle kids, to juggle profession, where you sort of, you know, I've done my sports physio degree by then, and just finished my specialisation and wanting to sort of go in a career path, it wasn't the priority. But I was lucky enough to be, you know, so to have, I guess, a great business partner in Peter and Judith with Body Logic Physio we had. And that's, I suppose you realise when in our environment in sport and health profession, we help a lot of people, it comes back in spades, and, you know, overwhelmed by the support I had with that. And so that's sometimes I feel almost a bit lucky in one way that I had so much support, and then, you know, the other side of it is the opposite, the luck. So, but I, you know, blessed that the amount of support I have in my workplace was very supportive, and was able to continue normality. And I think, you know, what I learned out of that is, you know, the importance of, you know, relationships with human beings, you know, live your life to your fullest. And I guess, you know, for me, I've just been a lucky man to be able to have my kids and grow up with them for the last 10 years and teach them the way I want to teach them. And hopefully they've learned a few things over time. But yeah, to professionally keep juggling footy, Eagles, a business. I mean, the Eagles were amazing at that time for me. So actually, again, credit to a sporting team that just did everything they could do at the time to just keep me on board and what can we do. And I think, you know, that over time, people with challenges in their life and health challenges, or look at Neil Danaher, for example. He was there at that time, Neil Danaher. So look at what he's become. He's an absolute legend, what he's done with his cards he's been dealt. So, you know, it's just a case of getting through the absolute crisis in life with things that occur, and then, you know, try and create normality, and then try and create something from it. And I was lucky enough to set up what we call a Sunshine Beach Run. And it was a memory event for anyone who's lost a young child. So it ended up being a memory event for my wife. But of course, people have lost kids to SIDS and Kids, which is called your Red Nose Foundation. So we did that for about 10 years. So the learning of that is, I guess, just trying to be, human beings are very resilient, and we'll keep plugging along. Kids are resilient more than anyone. But the opportunity to have so much support and I guess, we don't know what's ahead of us. So just live the moment and, enjoy what you do, be passionate about what you do. Don't hold back from what you want to do. I think accepting the professional, my difficulty was accepting that professionally I couldn't probably go into all the things I want to do, but
100%. You have to focus on yourself.
And I think the massive juggle of life, and that's what we all do. Everyone's juggling life. So it's just trying to prioritize things when, as you know, elite sports are sort of full on environment. So I was very lucky to be able to come probably part-time then and still stay involved, thanks to the footy club and the good people around me. So there's a bit of a lonely story for you.
No, thanks for sharing, mate. And sorry again to hear that, but super inspiring story for your kids. No doubt they'll be looking up to you and lucky to have you. Like you said, resilience. So to be able to have that attitude, like you said, to appreciate those that are around you. And I can imagine they would come out like spades and get around you and help that support and to raise a fundraiser as well. So it's an absolute tragedy, but it sounds like you kept moving forward, which is, like you said, the Neil Danaher way. So super inspiring, I'm sure, for everyone listening. You mentioned the Body Logic with Peter O'Sullivan. So it sounds like you guys have been business partners for quite some time. For the business owners out there listening in, have you had a successful working relationship in that space where it is high pressure and there's lots of stakes at base? How do you guys sort of work that well together?
Yeah, look, I guess what we had at the time was a business, and Body Logic is a great business, and I'm not with that anymore, obviously developing my own West Coast Health and High Performance, because I guess what we did at the time was sort of have our specialty areas, and Pete was the guru and is in back pain, chronic pain, and managing those sort of things and all chronic issues. And, the researcher in that, and women's health was run by Judith Thompson. She's the pioneer in women's healthing over here in Perth. So we had our areas. So sports, physio, and that sort of specifics part was mine. Pete's was the back pain and the spinal pain, but also chronic sort of pain issues. And Judith's was women's health. So that worked really well. And I guess you can only stretch yourself so far over time. And we knew our strengths. We pushed each other in different ways. But from a business perspective, it worked really well for like 8-10 years. And then I guess my challenge, that was a really big part of challenging my career, a big tough one, because I didn't really want to move from Body Logic, but it was a bit too hard for everyone involved to just continually develop something else. And my opportunity came up to set up a practice with the Eagles over at their home ground. And so that was probably one of the first practices located at a
it's becoming a bit of a trend now. You've started something.
Yeah, Nick Kane's done a good job and set up a place with the Bombers there now. But, I think having that high performance center now at the Eagles is sort of a dream in a way for me. But, doing it on my own has been a tough gig, coming from a practice where you're working with 2 or 3 practices. But, you get great people around you supporting you, physios working with you, and a great business manager hopping along the way with Mel, who's done that for me. It makes life a lot easier. And that's, I suppose, that the key with business, isn't it? You got to have a plan, but you've got to be able to enjoy it. And, I'm nowhere near where we need to be. And that's continually building up and enjoying it on the way.
On that note, it makes a lot of sense having a physio clinic, performance space within an AFL club. Why has it taken this long for it to start? Was there some strong challenges in getting it started?
Oh no! Look, I mean, the Eagles facility was basically a move. They were at Subi Oval forever, and Subi Oval basically got redeveloped over us. So you probably don't know the backing behind it all, but yeah. So that was purely about building a community medical centre that linked with the new build that was done. So it was a multi-million-dollar build at Vic Park, which is an area they were never in before. So it took a few years for it to develop. And I mean, the facilities there is outstanding. You know, the credit to the people who organised it and built it all. And I would, you know, challenge other facilities around to sort of have what we've got there. I mean, the Doggers did it probably 10 years ago. So they sort of did it out in Coogee. And what we've got, I think, I won't say it's better in any way because it is different, but it's ahead of what else is out there based on it's the newest build. So something else will come along down the track that'll be even inspiring and more things going on. But yeah, our clinic was based on a lot of negotiating over time to just fulfill a role that they wanted anyway as a offering to the community. We're coming in and bringing this big footy club.
So it's good timing.
Yeah, so the time was there, but you know, like anything in business, you have to work hard to negotiate and jump at it, otherwise you miss out. So
100%. Yep. And talk us through the space for those that haven't been there. Who's your classic client that works with you? Who are the athletes that work with you? Talk us through the business.
Yeah, so the business is separate to the point where the Eagles guys will come up and do their high performance stuff and their DEXA testing and their VO2 max testing and their bone density testing that they have as a part of research. If they need a biodex testing, they come up and use those things, which are often used for return to sport testing or measuring weaknesses. Most of the stuff they need is down at the actual footy club, but the occasional time to come and use the high performance stuff, that's where they come up. So the same stuff is offered to the community. And so I guess we've got a high performance part, which is a small aspect of the clinic. I mean, our clinic is based around physio and treating sports injuries, back pain, arthritis, your day-to-day patients that we'll all see that can all do with exercise. But the high performance part of it is for the recreational or semi-elite or anyone who wants to actually get the best out of themselves and actually get the best measurement out of themselves, get the best progress from a planning and a programming point of view, and and go to that next level. Whatever it is that ticks their box or goal they want to create, that's what the facility is there for. And we do the same with every patient we see. But to be able to jump out with for me as a patient, with a patient and go into a force platform test and measure their jump height off the force plates and measure the gastroc force left versus right by just jumping on a force plate, or if the guys are there to jump on the DEXA and say, look, here's your body comp, you need to drop 20 kilos, big fella. Your body comp's not that good, but this is the base for you, and we challenge you to lose 15 kilos over the next 3 months by doing X, Y, and Z. So that's very lucky to have that stuff there, and I think that that's not going to exist in most practices. So I just think that takes a while to just get out to the community that these sort of facilities are available to
100%.
the public. Yeah,
I know what you know.
Yeah, it's slowly getting better, and we'll look after some of the other local elite teams in town who don't have those facilities. But that's only a small percentage of what we do. It's trying to get the community engaged in these sort of things, which is not always seen as like, oh, why would I do that? But I think it just needs to be sold to the people that it is a very good opportunity. It's important, and if you want to take yourself to that next level, like you're saying, you prepare like a pro. If you want to get to that next level, then do what you can. Help yourself use the facilities that exist around town.
100%.
Wherever you live.
Yeah, and to have those objective measures, like you said, from body comp to screening and have access to all that, like no doubt there'll be, like you said, some athletes out there that have just never had access to it, or practitioners as well, like for the development of your staff to be able to have that.
Absolutely. And just return to sport after an ACL or after, everyone does it, but I guess just having those little bit of extra resources to tick a box. And even if, we're not the ones doing the full return to sport, we can help other physios or exercise physios or PTs do their thing by just giving them this resource, give them the report back. So, it all ticks the box of getting people back safely. Returning to sport.
Yeah. So, okay. So there's a lot of other practitioners around the area that are also using your facility for consultation and assessments. And
Yeah, well, there is and there isn't. That becomes a bit of a protective mode for some people to actually refer on, as we talked about before.
yeah,
If you can get the bit, if you're willing to sort of put it out there and help your patient more, then there's places that can give more information. It's only going to help you with your management. I think that's important to make sure that we do in our profession is get the best for our patient, is going where we need to go, joining forces with other people.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Good message, and one will spread. Well, from going back to your career progression, how did you get that first experience in 2004 at West Coast? What was the original role?
Probably through the current physio there, Paul Tucker. So we both worked at athletics with the waist athletes. He was probably doing a bit with the pole vaulters at the time as well, with big Paul Burgess, who's now coaching the pole vault there. But and then Tux moved into that role at the Eagles. It was probably one of the first full-time physios to go into AFL, actually, in about 2003. So I followed up his role at athletics, involved with different things I was doing. And I just around town, my name came up, and, jumped in very part-time with him to start with, because it was only role for one full-time physio. As I said, that was miles away. And now, every club has 2 or 3 full-time physios, full-time sports science, full-time exercise phys, full-time, a bit of everything really. Prior to COVID, it was a bit more there going, but now we're tightening the screws.
Sure.
But they want the best out of their athletes. So that was my opportunity through contact, but also working with someone else in a different environment. He wasn't certainly working with me, but certainly knew them as colleagues at the time.
There was trust there. Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to get that opportunity and then jump in and not stuff it up at the start. And if you've played footy, if you've done things that you're going into, it makes a difference. You've got that sort of bit of respect from that point of view.
Yeah. And from a return to performance point of view, return to play, have you seen a lot of change in the methodology with something like a hamstring strain in your experience in footy?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, everyone's got their different protocols. And I guess the problem is, if you look at the Orchard report, which is the number one medical sort of collection of data over years, the hamstring strains have been less reoccurring, but they still are highly prevalent. It's still number one injury in AFL. So I think we've become more aware of all of the different types, different levels, and the central tendon a bit more from the investigating and sort of taking that on board. Have the rehab protocols changed that much? Look, I think we go for sort of early intervention a lot more aggressively. We return to sport a lot more aggressively, but I think overall, I think we've done the right thing still for many years, 15, 20 years I've been involved. We've still done the gradual build up. The sports science is probably more involved in the last 10 years with the GPS and data we're using. I mean, I remember having a laser gun we used to get out of the big box in the early stages 15, 18 years ago. And we'd be like a policeman with the laser gun on the field,
get off the copper,
trying to get their speed. And
that's awesome.
Doing acceleration, deceleration until GPS came very prevalently involved. So that was
great.
So I think we're still measuring speed, but not with the same technology we have. So we're still doing all the same things of repeated strength, plyometric work, high speed work. I think we know a lot more now that high speed running is way more important at getting that into you consistently before returning to sport. Being underdone with your chronic acute training loads is more important than we probably measured before, with all the research that we've seen come out with Tim Gabbett and all the crew that we know who have done all that great work. So, I think we've still done it traditionally, and hamstring strains have always been there, still are there. There's no magic pill. And unfortunately, it's a bit of a big part of sports that require high speed. And Aussie rules is one of those.
It's only getting faster. Yeah,
it is. You're right. It's getting faster and quicker. And I watch this footy games now. I think, how the heck do they get? How quickly do they get the ball out? And it's great. It's great. Intensity is always up there. Yeah. So I think from a hammy perspective, I think we've done it in a good way all the time. But there's there's still always things where little things we're improving and research backing up what we thought maybe 10 years ago.
Yep.
That we'll do
Validating
now.
it.
Yeah, it's validating what we probably were doing and just being systematic about how you do it. You can't prevent everything, but we can do our best to try and reduce the risk.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. No, awesome. Well said, mate. We'll get into the personal side now of the podcast, have a bit of fun with these, but the get to know Chris Perkin side, mate. So
yeah, very good. Okay, have a go.
First one is which movie or TV series has impacted the most of Maya? And you can throw in book as well if you're not a TV guy.
Probably the opposite for me. I wouldn't like to say I'm not a book guy, but yeah, maybe a bit of ADD doesn't allow me to read books that well. So podcasts, movies are good. Look, one of my favourite movies, Pulp Fiction. That's got nothing to do with anything here. So we'll go with my second favourite movie, Shawshank Redemption. So I think that's a favourite of a lot of people, and
classic
with Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins and Andy Dufresne doing what he did, overcoming the seemingly impossible mission. Being dealt some shitty hand and, fought through what, in the prison system, what you think no one would ever do. I can't remember if it was based on a true story or not now. It should be. It's such a good movie. But, the passion to follow through on a task and the persistence to do what he did in digging a freaking tunnel with a little pick that took him 10, 15, whatever it was, years to get through. So, there's some great messages in that movie, friendship that lasts forever, relationship building, understanding human beings and how they tick. For me, that movie where that old bloke disappeared out of the life he had and necked himself, hanging himself because he didn't know a life outside of prison. So that was like the emotions from that movie are big for me. So, I enjoy the friendship and the camaraderie that you see in things like that, and then the as I said, the inspiration to actually follow your passion and get your goal, and
no matter how long it takes.
Persistence. Persistence towards a goal. There you go. That's my favorite movie too. So I just made some little positives up out of that.
100%. You're selling it well. It makes me want to watch it again.
And I like chatting with the young blokes at footy clubs and go through movies they've watched, and you can't believe some of the movies they haven't seen. That as I said, maybe I'm getting a bit old, but some of the classic movies that everyone's watched or series, and go, you've got to watch these things. So if anyone hasn't watched that, go and have a look.
100%. Yeah, I can vouch for that. It's definitely in my top 10.
Yeah.
So for sure, it's a good long one as well. I don't think they make movies 3 hours long anymore.
No, I can't. You can't sit them through. People have got a little bit of issues with social media. You're going to get in and out.
True. It's all series now, 30 minutes, 60 minutes.
That's right, exactly.
You almost tied it into that first question, but favorite inspirational quote or life motto?
Yeah, I probably one of my mum would always say to me, be kind. Always be kind to people. You be kind to them, they'll be kind to you. Treat people how you want to be treated. That sort of concept. I think I take that into most of my patients, no matter who they are, where they come from, what their problem is, whether they're, Hollywood superstar athlete who plays for the, Eagles, or your old Mother Hubbard who's sort of walking with a bung knee. I sort of always want to be trying a nice, kind, friendly person to people that you can actually relate to. So I think that's really important in getting the results out of people, is actually so they can build trust in you. So, I think Morgan Freeman had the quote of, how do we change the world? One random act of kindness at a time, random act. So, I think like he sort of said, if everyone does that, a little bit of random kindness every day of their life, the world's a better place. And someone does that to you, you go, oh, thanks, didn't expect that. And it's such a nice feeling to have. So I think just being kind to people and being, understanding that you don't know what's going at the back of someone's life if they're a grumpy ass. Be kind, the fact that they might have some battles going on in the background you don't know about. And that's why with my job, I hunt that down with people and trying to find underlying what's the real issue that's not getting them better. And sometimes it's the battle they're having in their brain underneath it all. So I think it's important to get relationships. And if you're a kind person, you'll get the best out of your people you're dealing with.
Oh, great message. And what about on the flip side, in your work life, what are your pet peeves? What makes you angry?
Oh, what makes me angry is a little bit of too long non-weight bearing. That's one thing. When people are coming back after surgery, I'll work at that. Yep. I'll work at that over time. I don't think it's good for bone health. I don't think it's good for muscle sort of health. I would like to get some more research done in time off your leg. You know, I know there's a reason we need to be careful with injury management. That's one of the things. But that's one of my things, because, you know, we're working at elite athletes, and if they're off their feet for 12 weeks, we then you lose it. You don't use it, you lose it. That's the old motto. Bone health and muscle health, tendon health are all. How do we work on that? By loading the body. So I don't like when people aren't being active, and I don't like people when they're not. I don't like it when people are having excuses for not being active. But everyone's different, so you can't push people. But one of my pet peeves probably is poor management. When I'm seeing second or third opinions, of people haven't given enough of a shit of their patient, and they've just done the standard average thing that just gets them through a 15, 20-minute appointment, and they just haven't put enough effort into the patient they've had. And, you know, everyone's differently. Everyone has a different model of why they work, but I do not like where people are not using evidence-based things these days. People are using ultrasounds on things. Please throw it away. Ultrasound machine or electric stimulation, it doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. It should be out of your clinic. And, you know, maybe there's some new research that suggests it does work somewhere, but please show me. Because I just think that, you know, it's so much more evidence-based stuff out there now, and exercise, and I'm passionate about people getting on the right track quicker. And when I see second or third opinions that have been just dealt the wrong cards and have been thrown on this medical merry-go-round for a year or 2 years, and their life's been put on hold because they haven't had simple things given to them, you know, that's it. So show care, get second opinions, big picture stuff sometimes. Don't sweat the small stuff. Get people better and get them being happy again. So it pisses me off when people are managed poorly over and over. There you go.
Yeah, mate. You can tell you're passionate and you care, which is we love to see it.
Yes, exactly.
What's your favourite way to spend your day off, mate? COVID-free world, everything's going beautifully in the world again. These last two questions. Favourite way to spend your day off.
Well, here's a little bourbon and Coke. I don't mind
wild turkey.
That's a Friday night. So I mean, being a physio, I probably don't just sit and laze about. You know, yourself, I struggle with doing nothing. I should be better at doing that and being mindful of just chilling out, but I struggle doing nothing. So a perfect day for me would be ducking off to the gym. I can't run anymore because of my dodgy hips. But doing some exercise that involves a bit of cardio, going down, watching my young bloke play footy. He's at Colts level, and then, you know, catching up with my old footy mates and old friends, watching my old footy team, you know, and at the same time watching the Eagles win by 50 points.
Yep. It's coming.
And taking my crazy dog for a walk, and sitting by a fire at the end of a day, you know, with the footy on, maybe, with kids and friends, and, you know, just chilling out, but also having ticked a few boxes during the day. There you go.
Productive day.
But, you know, be able to relax in a way that, you know, you can reflect on what's been happening in your life, maybe occasionally.
Yep. And last one for the rest of 2022, mate. What are you excited about? What's on the horizon for you for this year?
Yeah. So for this year, continually grow the business. I'm enjoying the more of the performance stuff, building and exposing that to the world. I'm looking forward to getting back to Roto. You have to, if you haven't been to Rottnest Island, mate, you have to get over to Perth one day.
Rottnest, I have. What's the special animal that lives there?
Quokka.
The quokka. Yeah.
Quokka
I reckon it's nearly been 10 years though, so I am due to get back.
Yeah. Getting the boat out to Roto is going to happen towards the sunny season again. And, you know, I'm lucky enough to be getting some lecturing gig over in Switzerland at the end of the year, November. So
Fantastic.
that'll be my first trip over there, doing some teaching in the hip and groin with some interpreters. I guess just keeping fit and healthy, and keeping people on the right track, getting them the message of keeping fit and active and healthy, and along the way, trying to have some fun.
Yeah. And on that one, for those that are managing a busy schedule, how have you managed to be able to work in elite sport for as long as you have, from a longevity point of view, and then also, create businesses and do other things outside of sport? How do you juggle those two aspects of your professional
very
life?
tough. Certainly, relationships are tough because you need to squeeze a lot of people in your life, and things like that do suffer over time. But I've been lucky enough to have a lot of support with my kids, and so that's one part of it. But getting your exercise in early in the day, getting up at 5 o'clock, mate, living on 5 to 6 hours sleep, even though we tell our elite athletes to live on 8+. But if you got to drop time somewhere if you want to put extra in. But I guess if you're enjoying what you're doing at work, it doesn't seem like work. So I mean, that's important, and variety. I think the variety. So I've been lucky enough that the club were happy to have me part-time as opposed to not involved. So and as a specialist, I guess I can give that opinion, consulting sort of environment, but also have been there long enough to know the system and how it works. And so the juggle act of involving sport, life, friends, it's just having a busy life. And I guess things are compromised somewhere, and you have to accept that you can't be everything to everyone, and things will change over time when life changes. So roll with it when you can.
Awesome, mate. No, well said. Thank you. Thank you so much for jumping on and sharing your time with us on a Friday night, like you said.
No, it's good, mate. I appreciate you doing a great job with this stuff, and some good stuff coming out of it.
100%. You get guests like yourself, and it makes my life easy. And just share your story. So thank you, and thank you for everyone watching live. If you tuned in halfway through or at the end, make sure to watch the whole episode on our YouTube channel, and we'll post the podcast recording for the podcasters out there on the upcoming Tuesday. So stay tuned. Our next live chat will be with Michael Crichton, the owner of Melbourne Health and Performance. That will be on Friday, the 13th of May. I'll see you guys then, 8:30 p.m. Cheers, Chris.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it.